Ed Joyce at last scored his first 100 of the LV County Championship season, going some way to negating Gary Balance's brilliant ton of his own on the second day of the match with Yorkshire at the Brighton and Hove Jobs.com county ground. Balance began the second morning on 98 and was at his ton in the second over as he hit Ollie Robinson to the fence to bring him his 12th four to go with 1-6 from the 200 deliveries he'd faced. He put out a reminder to the England selectors that he still has what it takes to score runs at the highest level. Next up was Tim Bresnan's 50. He'd resumed his innings on 44, made out of his side's 346 for 6, and was raising his bat after facing 103 balls, his half-century being completed with his 9th boundary after a sluggish start to the day for the all-rounder, who's having a fine season with both bat and ball. Balance, no doubt boosted to get to 3 figures for the first time since he did that in Antigua in April, now played a host of shots as he pushed his team forward. It was a good day to bat in, blue skies overhead and the conditions warming up quickly. Balance needed only 55 balls to get his third 50 of his innings. He'd now seen off 255, from which he'd struck 18 fours and 1-6, and he added another maximum of Chris Nash. He and Bresnan had come together with their side on 252 for 6, but by the time they were parted, they'd added 197 runs for the 7th wicket, a Yorkshire record against Sussex. The only thing they missed out on was a 5th batting bonus point, but they wouldn't have been too concerned about that. The total had moved up to 449 by the time that Balance, now on 165, was bowled by Chris Liddle in a manner we've seen already this season. It ended a fine knock indeed. Bresnan's own innings was brought to a conclusion on 78 when he laboured coming back for a second run and was beaten by Nash's throw from the deep, Liddle making certain of the dismissal by knocking all 3 stumps right out of the ground. Liddle then had Stephen Patterson taken behind before he'd scored to reduce Yorkshire to 459 for 9. But they still batted on, with Liam Plunkett and Ryan Sidebottom adding 35 more runs for the last wicket, which ultimately kept Sussex out in the field for 136 overs, the total finally ending up on 494. Plunkett was involved in another run-out to end the innings, this time his own, as he was beaten by Joyce's throw, but his side would have been very happy with their lot once again. Into bat an hour after lunch, Sussex made a very slow and watchful start to their reply, as they needed to, against this fine attack. Only 39 runs came off the first 20 overs, but at least Luke Wells and Joyce survived. If Sussex are going to beat the drop into the second division, then they are going to need to show such fighting qualities for the remainder of this campaign. It was the introduction of Adil Rashid which changed everything. Joyce eyed him up and then took a liking to the leg spinner and struck him for this 6 as the scoreboard began to tick over. Wells also opened up a bit as he and Joyce got things moving with one of their better partnerships of what has been a difficult summer for the South Coast team. Rashid wasn't always at his best and Joyce took full advantage of anything dropped in too short, this the second of his maximums. The Irishman has not been in any kind of form this year for his county and so would have been delighted to get to a 50 against the champions with this shot, one which brought him his 6th 4, his last 3 coming off the last 3 balls, which took him to his mark of 80 deliveries. The classy batsman was starting to look back to his best as another delightful stroke brought up his side's 100, just the start Sussex would have been looking for. But with a total on 110, they lost 2 wickets. On 43, Wells came down the pitch to drive Rashid, who spun the ball back sharply to hit the stumps. Then 2 balls later, the man expected to be playing in the Test series against Pakistan had Matt Machen held by one of the close-in fielders, Jack Leaning. Soon after that, Nash was beaten for pace by Plunkett and out LBW for 18 at 139 for 3. He left with Joyce on 75, but it wasn't too long before he skipped down the pitch to clear the rope off Rashid again to get to his first ton of the championship summer off 139 balls. He scored a lot of his runs off Rashid, including his 3 6s, which went along with his 11 4s. But Rashid then got his man right at the day's end, leaning with a smart catch at short leg, which had Joyce out for exactly 100 with only 15 balls of the day remaining. They were safely negotiated by Michael Yardy and night watchman Robinson, who will go again on the third morning with their team on 175 for 4, still 319 runs behind and needing 170 more to avoid being asked to follow on. That they do that is now crucial for them.